The mining facility's alarm pierced the purple twilight of Zarian sky as Kai Brennan pressed himself against the cold metal wall, his breathing ragged. Blood seeped through the tactical vest where shrapnel had found its mark, but he pushed. The pain aside, the intelligence had been wrong, dead wrong. What should have been a skeleton crew guarding the dithium extraction site had turned into a fortress bristling with Vorak warriors. His comm device crackled with static. Phoenix 7, report status, came the distant voice of command. Kai keyed, the device with a bloodied hand. Phoenix 7 compromised. Intel was wrong. This isn't a mining op. It's a military installation. Another explosion rocked the facility as his planted charges detonated in sequence. At least that part of the mission would succeed. I'm blown. Extracting now. But even as he said it, Kai knew extraction wasn't happening. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor, multiple sets moving with military precision. The Vorak had found him. He checked his rifle's charge indicator. 30%. Maybe enough for one last stand. The irony wasn't lost on him. Kai Brennan, who'd survived the massacre at Colony 7, who'd single-handedly held the line at Kepler Station for 6 hours, was about to die on a backwater mining planet because someone back at command couldn't read a damn reconnaissance report properly. The first Vorak soldier rounded the corner and Kai opened fire. The blue energy bolt caught the alien center mass, sending its 7-foot frame crashing into the wall. But there were more. Always more. They moved like liquid mercury, their elongated limbs and silver-blue skin allowing them to flow around, cover with unnatural grace. Kai rolled behind a support beam as return fire scorched the air where he'd been standing. These weren't just any Vorak. Their armor bore the crimson insignia of the Imperial Guard, elite warriors who'd probably killed more humans than Kai had hot meals. Human, one of them called out in accented standard. Surrender now and your death will be swift. Counteroffer, Kai shouted back, chambering his last plasma grenade. Go to hell. He threw the grenade around the corner and sprinted in the opposite direction as the explosion lit up the corridor behind him. The facility groaned under the assault, emergency lights bathing everything in hellish red. He had maybe 2 minutes before structural collapse, but the Vorak would reach him in one. His rifle finally died with a pathetic whine. Kai drew his combat knife, a piece of sharpened titanium that looked absurd against aliens who could bench press a hover tank. But it was all he had, and Kai Brennan had never gone down without a fight. They came around the corner in formation, energy weapons trained on him. But something made them hesitate. Maybe it was the way he stood, knife ready, bleeding from a dozen wounds but still defiant. Maybe it was the bodies of their comrades scattered behind him. Or maybe it was something else entirely. Stand down, a new voice commanded, rich and feminine despite the alien accent. The Imperial Guards parted like a curtain, revealing their commander. Kai had seen Vorak before, but never one like this. She was tall even by their standards, nearly 8 feet of predatory grace wrapped in ceremonial armor that looked more like art than protection. Her skin held the typical silver-blue hue of her species, but with an almost luminescent quality that spoke of noble breeding. Most striking were her eyes, not the typical golden yellow of common Vorak, but a deep violet that seemed to see straight through him. I am Commander Thessa Vex of the Crimson Spear Battalion, she said, stepping forward with fluid movements that reminded Kai of a hunting cat. And you, human, have impressed me. Kai kept his knife raised, though they both knew it was useless. Sorry if I don't seem flattered. Thessa's mouth curved in what might have been amusement. 12 of my warriors. You killed 12 of my warriors with inferior weapons and failing equipment. She circled him slowly, appraising. My people value strength above all else. You have shown strength. Your people value conquest and slaughter, Kai spat. Don't dress it up. Perhaps. Thessa stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he could see the intricate scarification along her jawline, marks of rank and honor in Vorak culture. But you intrigue me, human. You fight not just for survival, but with purpose. Fire. The facility shuddered again, more debris falling from the ceiling. Thessa gestured, and her guards lowered their weapons but remained ready. I am 34 cycles old. she continued, seemingly oblivious to the destruction around them. I have conquered 17 worlds in the name of the Vorak Empire. I have never taken a mate, for I have never found one worthy of standing beside me. Her violet eyes locked onto his. Until now. Kai blinked, certain he'd misheard. What? You have impressed me with your courage, human. You fought harder than warriors twice your size with honor despite being outnumbered. I find myself curious about you. Thessa stepped back, her voice taking on a formal tone. I am Thessa Vex, daughter of Warlord Vex, commander of the Crimson Spear, heir to the throne of House Vex. I have no husband. You have no freedom. The words hung in the air like a challenge. So choose, human warrior, Thessa said, her violet eyes never leaving his face. Become my mate and stand beside me as an equal in power and glory. Share my bed, my battles, my empire. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Or rot in my prison until your short human life fades to nothing. Kai stared at her, his mind struggling to process what he'd just heard. Around them, the facility continued its death throes, but all he could see were those impossible violet eyes. That's... He started, then stopped. That's insane. Thessa smiled, and for the first time it looked genuinely warm. Perhaps, but you have 30 seconds to decide before my guards drag you away in chains. Choose wisely, Kai Brennan. The knife fell from his nerveless fingers as the magnitude of the moment crashed over him. Are you out of your damn mind? Kai's voice echoed off the metal walls of the detention cell, his words sharp with disbelief and fury. The medical nanites had healed his wounds, but his pride remained raw. I'm not some trophy you can collect because I killed a few of your soldiers. Thessa stood outside the energy barrier, her violet eyes calm despite his outburst. She'd changed from her ceremonial armor into what he assumed was casual wear, a flowing garment that somehow managed to look both elegant and practical. You misunderstand my offer, human. Do I? Kai paced the small cell like a caged animal. You want to parade me around as your exotic pet, the human who bent the knee to the mighty Vorak commander. My name is Thessa. Her voice carried a hint of steel, and if I wanted a pet I would have acquired something with better manners. Despite himself, Kai almost smiled. Almost. Then what do you want? Thessa activated a control panel and the energy barrier flickered off. Kai tensed, ready to fight or flee, but she simply stepped into the cell and settled onto the single bench with fluid grace. Sit, please. I'll stand, as you wish. Thessa studied him with those unsettling eyes. Tell me, Kai Brennan, what do you know of Vorak mating customs? Enough to know I want no part of them. Humor me. Kai remained standing but found himself listening despite his anger. There was something in her tone, not the arrogance he expected, but genuine curiosity. Among my people, Thessa began, strength determines everything. The strongest rule, the strongest lead in battle, the strongest choose their mates. For centuries, our nobles have been matched by combat prowess, by bloodline, by political advantage. She paused, her gaze distant. I have defeated every potential suitor put before me, not because I am cruel, but because they were weak. So you decided to shop outside your species? Thessa's laugh was rich and unexpected. You have spirit. Yes, I suppose that is exactly what I did. She leaned forward slightly. Do you know how many human soldiers I have encountered in battle, Kai Brennan? Enough to make you hate us, I'm sure. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. They fall quickly, most of them. Adequate fighters, but predictable. They rely too heavily on technology, on following orders, on fighting as they were taught. Her violet eyes fixed on his face. But not you. You adapted, improvised, used our own tactics against us while maintaining your human unpredictability. You turned a massacre into a victory until the very end. Kai felt heat rise in his cheeks, part anger, part something else he didn't want to name. Flattery won't work. It is not flattery. It is recognition. Thessa stood, moving closer until only a few feet separated them. My people respect strength, but we have grown stagnant, predictable. We follow the old ways, fight the old battles, make the old mistakes. You showed me something new. And you think marriage is the answer? I think partnership might be. The admission seemed to surprise her as much as him. Among Vorak, a mate is not a subordinate. They are an equal partner in all things. War, politics, the raising of young. They share power, share burdens, share victories. Kai studied her face, looking for deception and finding only an intensity that made his pulse quicken. You're serious. Deadly serious. This is insane. He ran, his hands through his dark hair. We're enemies. My people and yours have been at war for 15 years. Yes. I don't even know you. That can be remedied. You could have me executed at any moment, but I will not. Thessa moved even closer, and Kai caught her scent, something like cinnamon and ozone. Kai Brennan, I have ruled through fear and strength for my entire adult life. I have taken what I wanted, conquered what I desired, destroyed what opposed me. But I have never felt curious about another being the way I do about you. The admission hung between them like a live wire. Kai found himself staring into those violet depths, seeing something that looked almost vulnerable. What happens if I say no? Then you remain in this cell until your natural lifespan ends. You will be well treated, comfortable, but forever caged. Thessa's voice was matter-of-fact. You will never see Earth again, never hold a weapon, never feel the rush of battle or the satisfaction of victory. And if I say yes? Then you become my equal in all things. You fight beside me, rule beside me, share my bed and my throne. Her hand moved as if to touch his face, then stopped inches away. You help me reshape both our peoples into something greater than they are apart. Kai's breath caught. Her nearness was doing something to his ability to think clearly. You're asking me to betray everything I've ever believed in. I am asking you to transcend it. For a long moment they stood in silence. Kai could hear his own heartbeat, could feel the warmth radiating from Thessa's alien skin. Everything about this was wrong. She was the enemy. She was holding him prisoner. She was offering him a life that would make him a traitor to his own species. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw something that terrified him more than any torture. Possibility. I need time, he said finally. Thessa nodded and stepped back, the spell breaking. You have until tomorrow's dawn. Choose wisely, Kai Brennan. As she moved toward the cell entrance, Kai found himself calling after her. Thessa. She turned back, eyebrows raised. Why me? Really? A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Because you are the first being I have met who might be strong enough to stand beside me without being consumed by my shadow. The energy barrier flickered back to life, leaving Kai alone with his thoughts and the lingering scent of cinnamon and ozone. Dawn on Zerion painted the sky in shades of amber and crimson, casting long shadows through the cell's narrow window. Kai had spent the night pacing, thinking, remembering fragments of his old life. The sister he'd lost in the Colony 7 massacre, the comrades who'd died in his arms, the years of hatred that had driven him to this moment. When Thessa arrived, she wore full ceremonial armor again, her violet eyes unreadable. Have you decided? Kai turned from the window, his jaw set with determination. I have conditions. Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, perhaps even approval. Name them. I won't be your pet or your trophy. If we do this, I'm your equal partner in everything. Strategy, politics, command decisions, not just the bedroom. Agreed. I want to know everything about your military operations, your political alliances, your enemies. If I'm going to help, you rule, I need information. Also agreed. Kai moved closer to the energy barrier. And I want your word that any children we might have will be raised to choose their own path. Human, Vorak, or something new entirely. Thessa's eyes widened slightly. You You accept? I accept. The words felt strange on his tongue, but somehow right. God help me. I accept. The energy barrier dissolved, and Thessa stepped forward. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of the decision settling between them. Then she reached up and removed her helmet, letting her silver hair fall free around her shoulders. Then we are betrothed, she said formally, by the ancient laws of my people and the choice of my heart. Before Kai could respond, she closed the distance between them. Her lips found his, and the kiss was nothing like he'd expected, not alien, or strange but warm and electric, tasting of something sweet and spicy. When they parted, both were breathing hard. The ceremony will be tomorrow, Thessa said, her voice slightly unsteady. Tonight you are my guest, tomorrow you become my mate. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of preparation and culture shock. Thessa's fortress was a marvel of alien architecture, soaring spires that seemed to defy gravity, walls that shifted color with the light, technology so advanced it felt like magic. She gave him a suite of rooms adjacent to her own, along with clothing that somehow managed to look both human and Vorak. The wedding ceremony itself was unlike anything from either of their cultures, held in the fortress's great hall before a near assembly of Vorak nobles and military commanders. It combined ancient ritual with personal vows. Kai found himself standing beside Thessa before an altar carved from a single massive crystal, speaking words in her language that pledged his strength to hers, his life to theirs. When Thessa spoke her vows, her voice carried across the silent hall with ringing authority. But when she looked at him, Kai saw only warmth and something that might have been wonder. The ceremonial scarification came next, a tradition that marked them as bonded mates. As the Vorak priest drew delicate patterns on their forearms with a heated blade mixing their blood in the ancient way, Kai felt something shift inside him. This wasn't just political alliance or physical attraction anymore. This was commitment, real and binding. Later, in Thessa's private chambers, the formal roles fell away entirely. She moved around the room lighting candles with nervous energy that seemed completely at odds with her usual commanding presence. Are you having second thoughts? Kai asked, watching her. She paused, a half-lit candle in her hand. Are you? No. The answer surprised him with its certainty. Are you? Instead of responding, Thessa set down the candle and moved toward him. In the soft light, her alien features looked almost ethereal, but her eyes held very human uncertainty. I have never shared my private space with another, she admitted. I have never allowed anyone to see me as anything other than a commander. Kai reached out gently, touching the scarification on her forearm where their blood had mixed. Then we're both stepping into unknown territory. She caught his hand, pressing it against the warm skin of her wrist where he could feel her pulse. Rapid, like his own. I want this to be real, Kai. Not just alliance or convenience or curiosity. It already is real. He drew her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite their differences. I felt it the moment you kissed me in that cell. This time when their lips met, there was no hesitation. Thessa's hands tangled in his hair as he traced the elegant line of her throat, tasting the alien sweetness of her skin. When he lifted her, she wrapped her long legs around his waist with fluid grace, and they moved together toward the massive bed that dominated one corner of the chamber. What followed was a dance of discovery, learning the geography of each other's bodies, finding the places that made her gasp and the touches that made him groan. Thessa was passionate and demanding, but also surprisingly tender, her alien strength held in careful check as they explored this new intimacy. Later, as they lay, entwined in the aftermath, Kai traced lazy patterns on Thessa's bare shoulder. So what happens now? Now you learn to rule beside me, she said, her voice drowsy with satisfaction. And I learned to see war through human eyes. The other nobles didn't look particularly happy about our marriage. Thessa's body tensed slightly. They will adjust, or they will be replaced. Diplomacy isn't your strong suit, is it? It is now. She turned in his arms, violet eyes serious. You will teach me patience, and I will teach you power. Together, we will be stronger than either could be alone. Kai kissed her forehead, tasting the salt of exertion and the promise of tomorrow. Partners in everything, she agreed, and sealed the vow with another kiss that tasted like forever. 3 months into their marriage, Kai was beginning to understand the delicate balance of Vorak politics. He sat in the war room beside Thessa, reviewing intelligence reports when the challenge came. Commander Vex, the messenger announced, his voice carrying the formal tones of official business. Lord Kravix of House Mordain requests audience. He comes under the banner of formal challenge. Thessa's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but her voice remained calm. Send him in. Thessa Vex, Kravix's voice boomed across the chamber. I come before you and your pet to question your fitness for command. Kai felt heat rise in his chest, but Thessa's hand found his knee under the table, a gentle warning to remain calm. She rose slowly, every inch the predator. Speak your challenge, Kravix. You have taken a human as mate. Kravix sneered, his gaze sliding dismissively over Kai. This weak creature cannot possibly provide the strength our bloodlines require. You have compromised House Vex and brought shame upon the Crimson Spear Battalion. Have I? Thessa's voice carried dangerous undertones. My forces have achieved 17 victories since my mating. Our tactical efficiency has improved by 30%. Perhaps you should examine the results before questioning the methods. Results achieved through alien trickery. Kravix slammed his fist on the table. Your human uses cowards' tactics, ambushes, deception, retreats. He has corrupted our honorable way of war. Kai had heard enough. He stood slowly, feeling the weight of dozens of alien eyes upon him. Lord Kravix, was it? Kai's voice was conversational. Let me ask you something. How many battles have you won in the last 3 months? Kravix's golden eyes narrowed. I do not answer to humans. That's interesting, Kai continued, because according to the reports I've been reading, your forces have suffered 3 defeats in that same period, all against inferior numbers. He moved around the table with deliberate calm. Tell me, is losing honorably better than winning dishonorably? You dare. I dare to point out that your honorable way of war is getting your soldiers killed for no gain. Kai's voice hardened. In human military doctrine, we have a term for commanders who waste lives for the sake of tradition: incompetent. The room erupted in angry voices, but Thessa's command cut through the chaos. Silence! The chamber fell quiet immediately. Lord Kravix, you have issued formal challenge. State your terms. Kravix's smile was predatory. Single combat between your human and my champion. When your pet falls, you will dissolve this shameful union and accept a proper mate from among the noble houses. And when my mate wins? Thessa's voice was silk over steel. If the impossible occurs, I will withdraw my challenge and submit to your continued leadership. Kai stepped forward before Thessa could speak. I accept. Kai, no. Thessa started, but he cut her off with a look. This is exactly what we talked about. Equal partners, remember? This is my fight. He turned back to Kravix. But I choose the weapons and battlefield. Kravix's laugh was harsh. The human thinks to level the field through trickery. Very well. Name your terms. Abandoned mining complex, Sector 7. Standard infantry loadout for both fighters. Armor, sidearm, rifle, 3 grenades. No backup, no assistance. Kai's smile was cold. Unless your champion is afraid of a fair fight. The insult had its intended effect. Kravix's scarred face flushed darker. My champion, Vorak the Destroyer, has killed more humans than you have drawn breaths. He will tear you apart. We'll see. As the formal arrangements were made, Thessa pulled Kai aside, her violet eyes blazing with anger and fear. You fool, do you know what you've done? Vorak is their finest warrior. He's never lost a single combat. Neither had you until you met me, Kai reminded her gently. Trust me, Thessa. I know what I'm doing. That night in their private chambers, Thessa's usual composed facade cracked entirely. She pressed against him with desperate intensity, her kisses fierce and demanding. "If you die tomorrow," she whispered against his throat, "I will burn Kravix's entire house to ash." "You won't have to." Kai captured her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere. We have too much left to do together." Their lovemaking that night was urgent and passionate, each touch a promise, each kiss a vow. Later, as Thessa slept in his arms, Kai stared at the ceiling and planned. Vorak might be the superior warrior, but Kai had advantages the alien couldn't understand. Human unpredictability, desperation, and something worth fighting for. The next morning, they traveled to the abandoned mining complex where Kai had first been captured. The irony wasn't lost on him as he stood in the same corridors where he'd fought for his life, now preparing to do so again for entirely different reasons. Vorak was everything Kravix had promised, 9 feet of scarred muscle and predatory grace armed with weapons that could level a building. But as they faced each other across the rusted machinery, Kai noticed something crucial. Vorak's stance, his grip on his rifle, the way he moved, all textbook Vorak military doctrine. "Predictable. Begin." Kravix's voice echoed through the complex. Vorak, charged with a roar that shook dust from the ceiling, energy bolts lighting up the corridor like deadly fireworks. But Kai was already gone, using the terrain and his smaller size to vanish into the maze of pipes and machinery. The hunt that followed was part chess match, part death dance. Vorak had superior firepower and armor, but Kai had knowledge of the complex and the patience to use it. He led his opponent through a carefully planned route, using improvised traps and guerrilla tactics that frustrated the larger warrior. The turning point came when Vorak, enraged by Kai's evasion tactics, charged into what appeared to be a dead-end corridor. Kai triggered his carefully prepared surprise, a cascade of heavy machinery that would have crushed any normal opponent. But Vorak was fast enough to avoid the worst of it, emerging bruised but still dangerous. "Face me, coward!" Vorak bellowed, his perfect armor now dented and scarred. "As you wish," Kai replied, stepping into the open with his rifle raised. They fired simultaneously. Vorak's shot went wide, thrown off by his rage and the unfamiliar terrain. Kai's shot was true, catching the alien champion center mass and sending him crashing to the ground. In the sudden silence, Kai approached the fallen warrior. Vorak was still alive, but his armor was breached and his weapon lay broken beside him. "Kill me," Vorak gasped, golden eyes bright with pain and shame. "Finish what you started." Kai looked down at his defeated opponent, then at the assembled nobles watching from the observation deck. "No, you fought with honor, even if your master did not." He extended his hand. "Live, and remember that strength comes in many forms." As he helped Vorak to his feet, Kai heard Thessa's voice ring out clear and proud. "The challenge is answered. My mate has proven his worth and mine. Does anyone else question our union?" The silence that followed was answer enough. 6 months. After the challenge, Kai thought he understood the depths of Vorak treachery. He was wrong. The intelligence reports had been trickling in for weeks. Fleet movements, communications intercepts, financial irregularities that painted a disturbing picture. Now, as he stood in the command center beside Thessa, watching the tactical display show Kravix's forces massing at the edge of the system, the scope of the betrayal became clear. "He's not just challenging your authority," Kai said, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls to highlight enemy positions. "He's staging a full military coup. Look at these force dispositions. He's got backing from at least 3 other major houses." Thessa's violet eyes were cold as deep space as she studied the data. "Houses Zerath, Morvain, and Kelros. I should have seen this coming." Her jaw tightened. "They never accepted our union. This is their answer. It's more than that." Kai pulled up financial records, his human talent for pattern recognition having served them well in recent months. Kravix has been promising them territorial concessions, Mining rights, trade agreements, he's essentially selling off half the empire to buy their support. Then we stop him. Thessa's voice carried the ring of absolute authority. Alert all loyal houses. Mobilize the Crimson Spear Battalion. We end this before it spreads. The next 48 hours blurred together in a frenzy of preparation. Their combined forces, a mix of traditional Vorak military might and human tactical innovations, prepared for what would either be a decisive victory or the end of everything they'd built together. Kai found himself in the unusual position of commanding Vorak warriors who had initially viewed him with suspicion. Now, after months of successful campaigns, they followed his orders with the same fierce loyalty they showed Thessa. The hybrid tactics they'd developed, combining Vorak strength with human adaptability, had proven devastatingly effective. The night before the battle, Thessa came to him in the command center where he was reviewing final preparations. She wore her full battle armor, every inch the warrior queen, but her eyes held an emotion he'd rarely seen. Fear. Kai, she said softly, there's something I need to tell you. He looked up from the tactical displays, immediately alert to the tone in her voice. What is it? If something happens to me tomorrow, nothing's going to happen to you. He stood, closing the distance between them. We've been through this. We fight together, we win together, we come home together. Listen to me. Her hands cupped his face, forcing him to meet her gaze. If I fall, you must not try to save me, promise me. Thessa. Promise me. The desperation in her voice shook him. My people will never accept a human ruler, even you. If I die, you must escape. Find your way back to human space. Build the life I took from you. Kai pulled her against him, feeling the hard edges of her armor against his chest. You're not going to die. And even if you did, I'm not going anywhere. This is my life now, with you, beside you, as your partner in everything. When their lips met, it was with the fierce passion of two people who might be kissing for the last time. Later, in their private chambers, they made love with desperate intensity, each touch a prayer, each whispered endearment a vow to survive what was coming. The battle began at dawn, with Kravix's forces striking the outer defense perimeter. The traitor had chosen his ground well, the asteroid field of Xerion's outer system, where the broken rocks would limit maneuvering and force close-quarters combat that favored Vorak traditional tactics. But Kai had anticipated this. As Thessa led the main force in a frontal assault that drew Kravix's attention, Kai took a smaller strike team through the asteroid field, using a route that should have been impossible for capital ships. The human tactic of thinking in 3 dimensions while the enemy focused on traditional battle lines paid off spectacularly. The first phase went perfectly. Kai's forces hit Kravix's rear command ships, just as Thessa's frontal assault reached its crescendo, catching the rebels in a devastating crossfire. For a moment, victory seemed assured. Then everything went wrong. Kravix had held back a reserve force, ships hiding in the asteroid field's deepest shadows, waiting for exactly this moment. They struck at Thessa's flank just as her forces were fully committed to the assault, and suddenly the hunters became the hunted. From his position commanding the strike force, Kai watched in horror as Thessa's flagship, the mighty dreadnought, Vex's Pride, was surrounded by enemy vessels. Her voice crackled over the calm even in the face of certain death. All ships, withdraw to rally point 7. I'll hold them here. Negative. Kai was already turning his ship around, ignoring the protests of his crew. We're coming to get you. Kai, no. That's an order. Since when do I follow orders? He punched the engines to maximum, racing through the asteroid field, with reckless abandon. Hang on, Thessa, I'm coming. What followed was the longest 5 minutes of Kai's life, dodging between asteroids and energy beams, his ship, a fast attack cruiser, dancing through the battlefield like a fighter craft. Behind him, the strike force followed, their loyalty to him overriding their survival instincts. He reached Thessa's ship just as its main armor began to buckle under concentrated fire. Her voice over the comm was weaker now, strain evident despite her efforts to hide it. You magnificent fool, she whispered. You should have run. Never. Kai's ship latched onto the dreadnought's hull, cutting through to the bridge where Thessa stood alone, her command crew dead around her, violet eyes blazing with desperate courage even as blood ran down her face from a head wound. "We need to go now." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the escape hatch. "My ship can be replaced, you can't." They made it to Kai's cruiser just as the dreadnought's power core went critical. The explosion lit up the asteroid field like a small sun, and in its wake something unexpected happened. Kravix's remaining forces, seeing their target apparently destroyed, began to waver. That was when Kai played his final card. Broadcasting on all frequencies, his voice rang out across the battlefield. "This is Commander Kai Brennan, speaking for House Vex. Lord Kravix, your coup has failed. Surrender now, and your followers will be shown mercy." Kravix's reply was a snarl of rage. "The human lies. Thessa Vex is dead." "Is she?" Thessa's voice joined the broadcast, strong despite her injuries. "I stand beside my mate, as always. Your rebellion ends now, Kravix. Choose, surrender, or die." The sight of their supposedly dead commander, alive and defiant beside her human mate, broke the rebels' morale entirely. One by one, Kravix's allied houses began to switch sides or withdraw entirely, leaving the would-be usurper isolated and outnumbered. The final confrontation was almost anticlimactic. Kravix, faced with certain defeat, chose death over dishonor, ramming his command ship into an asteroid rather than surrender. His followers, more pragmatic, quickly bent the knee to Thessa's renewed authority. Later, in the medical bay of their new flagship, Kai sat beside Thessa as the doctors worked to repair her injuries. The worst was a concussion and some internal bleeding, painful but not life-threatening. "You saved me," she said quietly, her voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. "Partners, remember? We save each other." Thessa turned to look at him, her violet eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. "When I saw you coming through that battlefield, ignoring every tactical consideration, risking everything for me." She reached up to touch his face. "I realized something." "What?" "I told you once that I had never found a mate worthy of standing beside me, but I was wrong." Her smile was radiant despite her injuries. "You don't stand beside me, Kai Brennan, you complete me. And in saving my life, in choosing me over safety, over reason, over everything else." She pulled him down for a gentle kiss. "Maybe I should have let you rot in that cell," Kai said with a laugh. "I didn't know you'd steal my heart too." "Too late now. You're stuck with me, forever," Thessa agreed, and sealed the promise with another kiss that tasted like victory and homecoming, and the beginning of something greater than either of them could have imagined alone. In the months that followed, their combined rule brought an unprecedented peace to the sector. Human refugees were welcomed into Vorak space, while Vorak technology and knowledge flowed back to human colonies. Their marriage, born from capture and necessity, had become something that transcended species. A bridge between worlds and a hope for a future where strength and love could coexist. And in the quiet moments between battles and diplomacy, when they lay together in their shared chambers looking out at the stars, both knew they had found something worth more than empires. They had found each other.